got 5:30. Everybody ready to get started? We should have charged $10 a person. We'd come out pretty good when it's full house. I'm going to go ahead and start us out with prayer. Lord, as we come to you tonight, we just give you praise and glory for all things. And Lord, I just ask for wisdom and guidance and direction in what we got to decide on here tonight. That we would be fair and truthful to everybody, and that everything would be in your order and in your way. And we give you praise and glory for all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I may not be real good at Robert's Rules of Order, and I may not have it all figured out, but last meeting, we allowed all y'all to talk. Anybody want to say anything? And we're going to give you that opportunity again in a little bit. But I've been hashing this thing around for about a month, and I'm going to tell you where I stand, how I feel, and how I'm going to vote. And then I'm going to give my committee members here with me, the board members with me, an opportunity to tell you whatever they want to tell you. Then I'll open up the floor, and if you want to speak, we'll be glad to listen. But I'm going to be honest with you. If you're going to get up and tell me the same thing you told me last month, I'd prefer that you not speak. We want to give everybody an opportunity to say their piece, and we'll go from there. Is that fair enough? Always been pretty much honest, so I'm going to try to stay that way. How do I feel? Last month, I asked a question. Would you rather have this processor than the sludge that we got coming in now? And it was an overwhelming response of neither. The truth is, neither's not an option. We're going to have the sludge one way or the other, whether it goes through this processor or whether it doesn't. Okay? And I wish we could figure out some way to make it all work. My concerns are that once this processor is set in place, then it'll be like the sludge. We'll have no restrictions, no control, if so to speak, over it whatsoever. As a matter of fact, Vanguard has made it very clear that whatever comes out of that processor, other than the gas, when it leaves that processor, it no longer belongs to them. So nobody wants to own it. On the other side of the coin is, I honestly believe that we all eat these foods that these byproducts are coming out of. So at some point in time, we're going to have to come up with a way to deal with this waste. And from what I can read and from what I can tell, this processor might be a good alternative than just dumping this waste in the fields and doing it the way it's been doing. But with the restrictions, with no restrictions from the state, with not being able to control anything about what's going in or out and having anything to deal with that, as of right now, my vote is no. And I'm just being honest with you. If they can prove to me, and I've never seen one of these plants, I don't know exactly how they all work, and the byproduct coming out of there, from what I understand, has a lot less smell than what the sludge is. I feel for y'all that's close to that, because I got a feeling y'all can be bombarded with sludge. And there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. So, state rules, legal counsel, anything we can do to stop sludge from coming into the county?
Not really. The state has pretty much superseded local governments on much control over soil amendments. The EPA, the EPD, at the state level regulates it. There's very limited things that county can do, or any county or city can do to regulate soil amendments.
You'll get your chance in just a minute. But that's my 2 cents worth. That's the reason I asked the question, which one would you rather have? I went and sat down with Caleb, and I think I'm saying this right. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't limit one entity based on another entity. So we can't tell somebody you can't put out sludge if you let you put it out of this machine, but we won't let you put sludge out any other way. Or we can't say for Wilkes County, you can bring your sludge here, but it's got to go through this processor or another type processor before it can be put out. We can't limit that. So we're not gaining. I thought if we could gain, if we could say either or, and I think the the processor waste is better than what we get. And that's the reason I said, I asked the question last month. But like I said, based on what Caleb has told me and everybody else that I've talked to has told me, then we can't do that. We can't limit one over the other. So right now, like I said, my vote would be no, but I will tell you this, I think that we're gonna need to be looking at something like this in the future to try to make something work to where when I come to town, just like I came to town today and come through below Tignal, with my window down, I had to roll my window up. Okay?
That's where we live.
Yeah, I'm just being honest. I feel if we want y'all to live right beside this stuff, I drive by and come to town and I'd roll my window up and I didn't like it. Nobody likes to smell that stuff. And if we can figure out a way to make it work, I think we'd all be ahead of the game. But until we get that all worked out, that's where I stand. So I'll open it up to any of y'all want to comment or before I open it up to them to speak.
That is no processor.
Sir?
You vote no processor.
At this time, yes, that's what I'm gonna.
All right. Sorry, thank you, excuse me.
I vote no. However, like Kyle said, in the future, we are gonna have to figure out what to do. And the technology is gonna have to catch up with the state. And the state's gonna have to give the counties authority to regulate their county land. I have no problem, it's a great idea, but we have to implement ways to regulate it based on what the citizens of Wilkes County want and make everybody happy. And so the farmers can stay in business and everybody can survive. So my vote's no.
I agree with Cal. 100%. My vote's no.
I'm gonna call out a few names, I'm gonna ask y'all if you're here to stand up. Josh Parker. Scott Powell. Danny. He ain't here. Lee
Danny.
Parker.
He didn't come in.
Ken Parson.
No.
No.
You're here.
Identify, you're here.
Stand up. He can't hear.
Bill Beck.
Here.
Eric Pagan. And Bradley Parker. Bradley Parker's here.
Bradley's not here.
These are the people who I worry about the most, because they're gonna be directly affected the most. For the Eco Digester, I think it's a great idea. I love it. It's how- and people going green nowadays, put your manure, your yard waste, your table scraps in a pile, compost it down, you got a little barrel in the back, they sell them in little gardening magazines, you make your own compost. And that's what this is doing to me. They're catching the smell, so you're not gonna smell it. And they're gonna sell that. That's your Go Green movement. Everybody's going. I think it's a wonderful idea. I like the way it looks. The names of people I just read off, I just spoke with Josh prior to this meeting. They live directly on Centerville Road. They're direct neighbors to the farm where this is gonna transpire. I'm with Kyle. I think y'all fix to get bombarded. It's gonna stink, because it's gonna be grudging when if it's voted, turned down. For the people with the digester, you're gonna have to go back and do a little bit more planning. I could not vote for it if it's gonna cost the county 1 penny to maintain a road at $260,000 per mile to pave, and that's, right now, that's gonna go up, everything else is going up. So, I couldn't turn my back on my neighbors or my friends, even though I love this technology and idea. But it cannot cost the county, like Wilkes County, we can't afford to maintain the roads we have now. You'll have to figure out to make a presentation to change, so it doesn't cost the county any money. The people who live on 78, I'm not being ugly, you live on a state highway, the traffic doesn't concern me with you, and I'm not being ugly to you because you choose to live on 78. That truck's gonna go down 78 regardless, whether they're stopping in Wilkes County or going to the next county for another digest street. County roads, we choose to live in rural Georgia, we choose to live where we do because it's a little bit slower. slower pace of life, we like it quiet. I would love to see the eco digester put in, I'd love to see the mulch come out, spread on the farm fields, but that's what is going green, that's the green movement. I will tell y'all this, if y'all are serious about it, the list of people I just named off, you claim you got one in, up New England somewhere already in operation?
That's correct.
If you're serious about this, you'll dig a little bit deeper, you'll come up with a different plan and come back. But you'll take that group of people right there, maybe some of the zoning board, maybe some of the county commissioners, and take them up north, improve, it doesn't stink, improve, it's not harming the environment, improve, the neighbors up there don't hate you. Because it's hard to convince some of us old southern folks to change our ways. We're stubborn. We don't like change, but that would be the first step. Make friends with your neighbor before you make anybody. So, moving forward, my vote tonight is no. But I've got a reserve in me, I'd love to see something like this come, because it's a new age of technology, and it's going back some of the old ways of composting. But I was you, I'd contact the neighbors, say, look, let's talk. I'd come up with a plan and talk to the county. We've got a bad seed in the ground right now with the sludge. My understanding, this has nothing to do with sludge. But most people out there are comparing this with sludge. You're gonna have to learn to separate yourself from the sludge. You're gonna have to separate what you're doing from the sludge. I will tell you, and I will encourage you not to quit trying, but come up with a plan that'll satisfy everyone. And you cannot satisfy everybody, that's impossible. But you're gonna have to come up with a plan that'll pacify your neighbors and make them think it's gonna be a good thing. Nobody wants to see an extra truck on their road, or extra 25 trucks on their county road, you know? But without us being able to regulate what you put in it, what is done without it, we don't wanna approve something that's a great idea, and then you hoodwink us and come up, and we got something we can't control that you said wasn't gonna happen. But right now, a lot of us sit and worry about that very thing. That, you got a great idea, but you got some more selling to do, especially us. I encourage you to keep trying. I encourage you to try again and come up with a new plan and come back. Tonight, my vote's no.
All right, before we have our official vote, keep talking. Before we have our official vote, I'll open the floor up. Anybody wants to make a comment, I'm gonna limit you to 5 minutes, but you're welcome to speak and say your piece. Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm Greg Sowell. I practice law in Athens. Excuse me, I need to step on your foot. I'm from South Georgia. It's a privilege for me to be here. I truly mean that. My first zoning hearing was in 1983, and I went into that meeting with black hair. And I came out 3 hours later, and it was white, just about. But I was born in Vidalia, and I grew up loving the rivalry between Vidalia and Washington Wilkes. And we always had some great football teams, and I've always heard about y'all and what a great community you are. And thank you for being here, because it means you care. And I thank y'all for being here, because y'all are citizen servants. Y'all not elected. Y'all are just neighbors trying to do what's right. And we all for that. We're all for that. Now, I'm not gonna rehash like you said. And by the way, I'm here tonight. If you were here last time, Jeff DeLoach was here. He was the lawyer, and he is the lawyer for Vanguard. But his son has got an out-of-state college visit right now, and he had to be there for that, as he should be with his boy. And so they asked me to come and visit, and so here I am. And so I'm here tonight. But I'm not gonna rehash what's been said about the economic development, the jobs and all that, and because I hear what y'all saying, and that's real. And I want you to know I hear you, and Vanguard hears you. The only thing that I can say to all of you and to you is two things, really. And one is they are operating, this is common technology, this isn't cutting edge, it's not like they're promising pie in the sky and it's going might work, might not work. But it's in a number of states already, and there's no issues anywhere with it. If there was, in this day of social media and instant communication, y'all know about it. and they wanna be good neighbors. And I spoke with Kayla, and I spoke with Jimmy, and the only thing I would say, and I shared with them, if you don't mind me pulling out a piece of paper, I just wanna share with y'all, let me get my right piece of paper here. This is y'all's, this is part of y'all's zoning ordinance here in Wilkes County. And what we're here to ask for is not a rezone, but a special use permit. And the planning board makes a recommendation to the county commission. And part of this special use permit, and this is the important part, are conditions and restrictions. And if you don't mind, if I take just a minute, about 5 minutes, and just read this, so everybody know what we're talking about. In approving a special use permit, the Board of Commissioners, your elected Board of Commissioners, may impose such conditions, safeguards, and restrictions upon the premises benefited by the special use permit as may be necessary to avoid, minimize, or mitigate any potential adverse or injurious effect of such special use permits upon other property in the neighborhood, and to carry out the general purpose and intent of this article. Conditions and restrictions may include, but are not limited to, those related to fencing, planting, or other landscaping, additional setbacks from property lines, location and arrangement of lighting, setting of reasonable time limitations, and other reasonable requirements deemed necessary to safeguard the interest of the general public. The board may require a guarantee or bond to ensure that conditions imposed will be complied with. All required conditions shall be set out in the documentation approving the special use permit. So like your board has said here tonight, y'all got, like we do everywhere, we eat, we got ways how you gonna deal with it. This is a technology that's been around for a while. They want to invest in your community. They want to create jobs. They want to add $25 million to your tax base. That's gonna help your general government, it's gonna help your school board. But at the end of the day, they are good neighbors, and they will be good neighbors. And they're saying, hey, tell this group what your problems are, what your worries are. Let's put it down in writing, Caleb and Jimmy, and it'll be enforceable because it is conditioned to this specific thing. And then I will, after 41 years of practicing law and teaching at the law school in Athens, I will say that if you put special conditions on a specific application, it stands alone. It can't be used by somebody else coming in and saying, well, you did that for them, so we can bring anything that even sounds close to that. That is not the law, I respectfully say. After 40 plus years, that is not the law. So special use means special use. It's special to this situation, and to what the needs are, what y'all are say you gotta have, let's impose upon it. And like I say, they're in a number of states. They've been in business 10 years. They're not some fly-by-night operation. They want to do well. Their market, their goal, of course they want to make money. I mean, that's what everybody does. But the way they do it is they are good neighbors, and they are able to create and recreate this in other places. Y'all, you mentioned the roads. They're not, I mean, it's not uncommon to say, okay, you want to come here, we're going to impose an impact fee. You're going to ride these trucks down these roads for 2 miles or however miles it is. It's going to wear out the roads quicker than if it was normal. You know, let's talk about that. What's the impact fee? What you got to pay to mitigate that, to make that back like it was? That's not unusual. Businesses do that all the time. All I'm saying is, like these gentlemen have said, your neighbors, we got problems, we got things. It is. So how you gonna deal with it in the future? Here are people with good technology that are willing to be bound by whatever the county comes up with and says, these are our conditions. They market themselves, they present themselves to small and mid-range dairies. They're not the big corporate, humongous, as we would say in Tifton or Vidalia places. It's smaller farms that will allow people to stay there and improve the quality of life for everybody in that community. So that's what they're here for. They want to listen. I invite y'all to say, these are our worries, these are our concerns. Let's write them down and give Caleb and Jenny an opportunity to come up with guidelines that can be presented to the County Board of Commissioners before they meet. And if Vanguard can meet them, that's great, and that's a boost to your community. And if they can't, they say they can't, and if they agree to it and they don't do it, then bam, you've got enforcement and you've got penalties. That's all I'm saying. So, that's why we're here. Thank you for your time. And I got several folks here from Vanguard. If y'all have, whatever y'all want to say, if you need to ask questions of them, they can answer. But thank y'all, I appreciate it.
They might have good intentions, I think they will.
Greg, Sowell, just like Powell, S-O-W-E-L.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to comment, I think that you said that the EPD should have some control, has control over the soil amendments. Well, according to Tyler Harper, the Ag Commissioner, the EPD does not have any control. If you call EPD, they say you gotta call the Ag Department, they have control. You
But
call
my point of
Tyler,
that-
it says
yeah.
EPD has.
Yeah, my point of that was that the state agencies, it doesn't matter to me which specific agency, overall, the state has control over the regulation of soil amendments, not local government.
Yeah, we know that, we tried to get Tyler Harper to,
Yeah.
work with the district commissioners to get to where the county can have some control, and he absolutely refuses to, so. Need to change it up.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm David Chestnut. I am a retired attorney for over 50 years, and I have been in the zoning meetings before, and my hair turned almost gray too. But it's very obvious that this is a state problem which they are putting off on the counties to solve, which is unfair because it affects every citizen in the state of Georgia. And there is no uniform standards which must be administered, which must be adhered to. So I would hope that Wilkes County would refer this back to the state with a letter to the governor asking that, and not where it's EPD or agriculture, but that we have a standardized solution to this problem, which is monitored and can be enforced locally and statewide. So, and you know, $25 million, and I don't know how many jobs they're gonna create, but having been in the bond business financing these types of facilities for as long as I have, I cannot see that this is very premature and it needs to be resolved statewide because it's like the immigration problem that the federal government has charged, which affects every citizen of the United States. This affects every citizen of the state of Georgia and should be resolved at the state level and not put on your backs to vote it up or down. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm Ray Chanel. I'm a neighbor. I live happily upstream from y'all. I wanted to ask, I'm not an attorney. I wanted to ask, 70% of your feedstock is coming from food waste?
That's correct.
70%. And you're trucking all that in?
Yep, 18 to 25 trucks.
Were it not for, can I call it a wrinkle in the regulations, wouldn't this be better placed close to that source?
Yes. We work strictly with the dairy farms for the manure.
Because of
Methane,
green energy,
gas
because
from
of green energy
the
project.
projects. So we require dairy waste to do
Right.
so that's why we partner with.
Because of
dairy
our
farms.
green energy bill. Correct? You can't say that? What's your position with the company? Can I ask you that?
I'm a development associate.
Development associate, marketing.
No, I'm a developer, sir, I'm not a marketer.
So you've seen the heat balance on this, all of the diesel for all of the trucks bringing this in from Athens, have you? There's a heat balance, I hope. No, no. So you can't prove that this is efficient? No.
We're bringing this through local zoning and then.
I don't care about zoning. I'm talking in engineering. I'm a recovery engineer.
Trucks use-
So you don't have, drugs that I use, what?
The trucks use diesel,
Yeah, yeah. How much energy does a truck use to bring it down?
depends on where the trucks come from.
Where are they coming from? Athens?
Atlanta.
Atlanta?
We protect here,
Atlanta?
food waste, it's
Oh,
waste
man.
dairy farm. As
Listen, if I was a food processing plant, I would use a lot of energy. I would have this in my backyard, and you're welcome to try it in Athens, but I don't think it's gonna fly. Anyway, it doesn't make sense from an engineering point of view. The only reason it makes sense is green energy bill. And you're asking us to buy this project that's gonna make compost, which would happen if you left the poo on the ground, and methane that you haven't demonstrated that anybody wants. Who's gonna use this methane? Pilgrim's uses a bunch of it. Are you gonna wheel that up there too? Of course you are. It's engineering, I don't know law, engineering, it doesn't make sense. Chanel, Stevens, Georgia.
Something that has really, I followed the sludge problem for quite a while. I don't live in the country. But but I've traveled Centerville Road a lot. And something I don't understand about sludge is, my understanding is that farmers accept payment to have the sludge put on their land. Is that true? And it's like every discussion I've seen about sludge, that's the farmers completely off the hook. Like, they're innocent, it just came. But the farmers are creating a problem in my mind, destroying quality of life and property values for their neighbors, because they want to accept $250 an acre to put this garbage, or whatever it is. I've heard nobody even knows what it is. But for sure, I mean, I've heard it's medical waste, syringe, I've heard all kinds of stuff. But all this discussion, the farmers they're just innocent. But the farmers are accepting $250 an acre to ruin their neighbors' lives. And nobody ever addresses this. And I've done a lot of protesting in my life. And I've been on Facebook a couple times, and I said, well, let's get some signs and go out in front of those farmers' property and protest. Because everyone lets them off the hook. And if anybody has any answer to that, I'd like to hear it.
Well, the farmer that's wanted this put on the Centerville Road does not live in Wilkes County. He lives in
Well,
Madison.
whatever it is, my point is, the farmers are always left off the hook. Like, they're just an innocent victim. They're not, they're accepting money to destroy their neighbors' property values. And like this one guy in the paper said, we can't have a wedding, a funeral, a barbecue. We can't do anything with these people. And, no one ever addresses the farmers, why did they don't have to do
You're gonna
this.
dump it and walk away.
And I wanna hear every single word.
Mr. Allen?
Okay. I'm gonna take a little bit of a different approach. I was actually a county commissioner when we zoned the county agriculture. And when we appointed a special board to look after it for us, I remember the hours and hours and hours of discussion that we had on this. And the intent was to keep our county safe. We are a farming community. We don't have any problems with that. We think we are God's country, and we're gonna live by that. But the intent of placing that was because we had some other people wanting to come in and try different things on us. We don't want that much change. you know, if you wanna perfect it somewhere else, that's great, because I agree there are problems out there that need to be handled. But it was the intent of that board to keep this county just as safe as we possibly could for all the people of Wilkes County. We don't have a huge workforce, operation here in Wilkes County. People have to travel outside of the county, but they want to come back to Wilkes County and enjoy their homes and enjoy the people around them and continue to live in this beautiful county that they remember all their lives. We're like fifth generations here. So I really applaud you for stating up front that you are against it. I hope you will hold those principles all the way through the process. But I know it's some hard decisions, but there was a big intent on keeping this county like it was when we created that zoning.
For me, the base problem in all of this is the garbage that's coming in from out of county, out of state. They start with 25 trucks, next is 30, and then it's 37, then it's 45. There's no one on the street counting trucks. They can't take our food waste because we don't separate our food waste. So they're not helping Wilkes County at all in the garbage field. It's a 2-hour driving radius. That's Atlanta to Columbia, South Carolina, and the whole circle thereof. That's a lot of food waste coming into our county. And I don't want Wilkes County, just like she said, we moved here for a reason. We didn't come here for a metropolis. We came here for a quiet little neighborhood, and we don't need Wilkes County to be the garbage dump of Wilkes County or Georgia or even the South. And we need to go to Atlanta and make these changes, identify sludge, put some regulations on that. Like Michelle said, he can't get by with this. I mean, at some point, there has to be legislation that actually controls this. And as far as the waste, it's an excellent technology. It really is an excellent technology. But why does it have to be in Wilkes County? The garbage, the trash, the trucks, the diesel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
I just have a minor concern that what we're doing now is talking about approving or the county agreeing to a process that no matter what kind of a flop it is for us, not for the business, but for the individuals that live here, that once it's in effect, you're stuck with it, and you can't get rid of it, and you won't get the support you need and you think you need. A classic little example, which to me, I'm an outsider, I've only been here 30 years, so I'm still an outsider, but I know that when I moved here, I decided this was a good place to live. And I have just a little problem, little example of the problem that I have that, whether anything could be solved or not, I don't know. But I live on the highway, and trucks continually increase and go in the years that I've been here. They haul logs both ways, just like that. I don't know why they don't, on that end deliver that way, but they do. And I have a real problem with jake brakes. I don't know how many of you know what jake brakes are, but it's noise that the truck driver makes that's really unnecessary. And they have signs that say, don't use jake brakes here. But I live just 4 miles from downtown Hartford. And I called the county agent and said, can we do anything about this? And he said, that's a state problem. So I called the state, and the state says, oh no, county agent has to between them, when you get them to do it. I still got the noise, but you know what? I've gotten where I can stand it. But you sure can never get rid of it. Once you approve it, and once you get a lawyer that latches onto it, and pardon, I'm not a lawyer, you can see my hair didn't turn gray. It just, it's hard to waste your time.
Evening, Doug Abramson, I live on Newtown Road. I'm also a newcomer, as you can tell from my accent. I've only been here 25 years. And I was disappointed the Planning Commission didn't recommend denial at the last meeting, making us all come back here, but I'm pleased that we seem to be moving in the right direction this time. Because turning down this proposal is frankly, it's just a no-brainer. I mean, the community tonight, in the previous meeting, through letters and whatnot, has done a great job describing the health and safety risks, the quality of life problems, the other problems that this would produce. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'll talk about three quick areas. First, as mentioned eloquently by Donna, agriculture is the #1 business in Wilkes County. Our resources, our agricultural resources in particular, must be preserved. They must be protected. Incompatible uses, this co-digester methane plant is a perfect example. They simply shouldn't be allowed in the agricultural areas. You, the Planning Commission, and the Wilkes County Commission should promote industrial uses in industrial areas, not in agricultural. The Commission should encourage, in quotes, the development and improvement of farm and forest land for the production of food, fiber, and other products, and also for its natural and environmental value. That is the exact wording from the Wilkes County zoning ordinance, what the goal is. So special use permits in agricultural areas, frankly, they should be granted only in very narrow and compelling circumstances. Projects that threaten the integrity of those resources, like this methane plant, must be approached with utmost caution. I would be very reluctant, if I were you, to invite them back. It just doesn't work for us in our agricultural areas. And redesignating agricultural land under a special use permit, or whatever you want to call it, should only happen if the benefits are crystal clear and the downsides are minimal. This methane plant and others like it clearly violate the criteria. The second point, it's simply not acceptable, many people have mentioned it, to allow or encourage businesses in other counties to send their waste here. Vanguard proposes to bring 25 truckloads a day of food and beverage waste into our county to support the methane plant. This precedent would be a disaster for Wilkes County. Now you say food and beverage waste. I hope you know it was food and beverage waste from a Nestle Purina plant in Hart County that caused a large fish kill on the Little River just last year. Food and beverage waste. My third point is, why twist yourselves into knots through special use conditions to help one business and one landowner, despite widespread and compelling comments from the community that it just doesn't make sense. And to the point of inviting them back and trying to get a piece of paper, as Mr. Sowell said, the likelihood of Wilkes County outfoxing a good-sized energy company and a person with an established record of thumbing his nose at the community and thumbing his nose at the law, come on. As best I can tell, you have very little information. This man pointed out perfectly. Very little information about the deal between Vanguard and the landowner. You have had essentially no communication, as best I know, with the landowner. He has not even been a part of this process. And you're involved in a complicated, unfamiliar subject, while at the same time you're dealing with sophisticated businesses loaded up with experts and lawyers. Now, despite these obstacles, some of you still seem to be struggling to come up with a piece of paper that will protect the county, the folks here, and the whole community. I hope you're not fooling yourself into thinking that you can come up with an enforceable, a sensible, and effective arrangement. The likelihood of your success is very low. I congratulate you and compliment you for tonight recommending denial.
My name is Dave Drake, and I would like to confirm everything Doug said, and you, these, part of the methane bill the current administration is putting forward is basically, it's a free ride for companies like this, and anything that goes wrong, and it will go wrong because these things always do go wrong, is going to be, it's going to be forced on everybody that lives in this county, and with no recourse to do anything about it, because we're not rich, we're not capable of fighting these battles once they get in. So I would like to say, do like the trash can say everywhere on the dumpsters, no out-of-county trash. And the best way to keep a vampire out of your house is to not invite them in. And I think that's what we should do in this situation right now.
Great.
My name is Terry Casper, and I'm also a local pastor here for 25 years. I don't claim to know a lot about this. All I know is things that I've heard. But my wife and I, we're raising 5 of our grandchildren. We live out in a rural area. We live out on Callaway Road. We don't live on Centerville. But I think that Centerville Road is the main area that's going to be affected. But if it affects anybody that's in Wilkes County, it affects us all. And my wife and I, we're raising 5 of our grandchildren, and I was just thinking, my grandchildren, they love to fish, and you're talking about the sludge that's coming in. We know if it's gonna get in the ground and different things. What about our wells that we've got out there? What gets down into the water in our wells that we drink? My grandson, he likes to fish. We fish in the streams and the ponds around here. What about the fish that we catch out of those ponds and we eat? What kind of effect is that going to have us maybe in the years to come that we don't know about today? I'm concerned about my grandchildren that we're raising, and I'm concerned about every Wilkes County.
In the doorway.
Okay, step through here, so come on through. Scott Powell, I live on Centerville Road. I'm from the Athens area, but I'm fairly new to Wilkes County, I guess 20 years or so. But
35 years.
Yeah, okay. And I'm also a recovering engineer, and went to University of Georgia. And you know, one of the first things I did was pulled up the EPA, risk analysis checklist for biogas projects. And does the plan adequately describe the sources, volume, and characteristics of the feedstocks? I mean, I'm just hearing kind of generalities. I'm not hearing any kind of specifics. And I agree that the problem you're going to get into is once they're here, they're here. There's no backing up. I mean, we can how's this $25 million estimate being made and we don't even know where it's coming from? We're getting generalities. Atlanta area? Is it Gainesville? Where is it? And then to me the biggest thing is, yes, we do need to come up with ways to handle this waste, but why does it make sense to haul 70% of what you're digesting all the way to Wilkes County? And why not send the 25% manure to right beside the companies that are and chances are they're in an industrial park somewhere that's designed for that, and yet no, we're going to haul in the vast majority of waste to Wilkes County. I think somebody said it best is just like the dumpsters say, no out of waste, no out of county trash. And I think that's a big thing. And I'm trying to protect my quality of life where I live, and but I'm also conscious of the whole county. I think we need to try to preserve what we got. And I'm telling you, once the foot's in the door, it's going to be very hard to undo what has been done. The best place to stop it is before it starts. Thank you.
I'm Bill Beck, and I have the property right across the street from the dairy. And our problem has been, since day one, is the complete lack of oversight. Kyle said it, there's no oversight by the state. Every state entity points at each other, but one thing they do is they strip the very people, you, of the ability to say no or how it's gonna come in. And when I first reached out to the first offender of the sludge, they were very accommodating to me, sharing with me the process, telling me how it worked. And then I started asking more questions, and the more I asked, the more adversarial it became, because I wasn't asking the questions that they wanted to hear. And he reminded me when he didn't want to answer any more questions if I was familiar with the Right Farm Act. And I said, absolutely. And he said, that gives me the right to do anything we want. This was Denali, which is now Terra Renewable. And I said, I reminded him about rights. Where his rights ended, where mine began. And what this is a metro problem. And what all these folks have in common, from Terra, Denali, Vanguard, is private equity. That's what's behind it. And private equity equity cares about one thing and one thing only, money, ROI. They want money, and they don't care. This is an urban problem that they have delivered to our back porch. And why? They either feel we don't have the resources or the intelligence to say no, and neither one of those are true.
Amen.
Amen.
And one more thing. I spoke with John earlier in the month, who spent as much time as I wanted on the phone. He gave me as much time. He spent time, this board, I can't speak for everybody, I haven't spoke to Kyle in a long time, but they spent a lot of time in ingesting this information. This is a tough decision. My question is, why us? How did we get so lucky? Why are we the lucky ones? And the question I would have as well, what state has the most digesters in our country? It's California. And how many co-digesters are on dairies in California? It's 0. 0.
One thing I would like to piggyback on his is, Vanguard is owned by BlackRock.
That's right.
And they're coming in with a $40 million investment, and pulling a permit would only slightly agitate them. And, they would send the fleet of lawyers and the truckloads of money, and they would make sure that that permit was reinstated.
I'm Josh Parker. I live within a half a mile of the dairy. One thing that was discussed during the last meeting where y'all were going to, if the permit passed, y'all were going to try to put some regulations on what's coming in, and that he wouldn't be able to take any other sludge, just what's produced by the digester on that 200 acres. You would not be able to enforce the other 250 acres that's a quarter of a mile from there, or the 1,000 acres over in Oglethorpe, which I know y'all have nothing to do with, but you can smell that sludge for miles. Yeah. And he's gonna bring it in no matter which way he can.
Yeah.
The question that I had, and I'm gonna throw this in there, the question I had with Caleb was, could we tie up all of his land in Wilkes County based on him putting in the processor, and I was told that one entity couldn't be controlled by another.
The issue is, Sal was talking about earlier, because to attach conditions to a rezoning or a special use permit like this, the conditions have to relate to the specific proposed use. If you start granting or allowing or requiring conditions that aren't related to that project, then it's what's considered contract zoning, which is illegal. Or have to be connected to the proposed use and proposed site of that use.
So he could still bring sludge in on that other 200 acres?
Condition to say.
The same 200 acres.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's a lost battle
When
either
I
way.
asked my question last month, which one you'd rather have, at the time, I was hoping it could be one or the other, but it can't.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was what helped me make my decision.
Thank you.
I say, sounds like he'll leave it in the lagoon in Oglethorpe, then haul it up there to the digester when he feels like it. Say, leave it in the lagoon in Oglethorpe and haul it to the digester when they feel like it. And my house is in between both, it smells great.
Any more comment?
Quick question. Y'all haven't really received specifics of the process. They just want to put in a code adjuster. What else have you received?
We've received some information about what it would be like, whatever, and it's not perfect.
It's not specific?
Well, the soil amendments were supposed to be drilled under the ground, they were dumped out of a fuel wagon.
Sorry?
What was that?
I said the soil amendments were supposed to be drilled under the ground, they were dumped out of a fuel wagon. How do we know the same ain't gonna happen with this digester?
It will.
How we pull in two trailers if they're
Anybody
gonna
else?
rip and waste water over the
I'll
road.
turn it back over to my board and talk for a minute.
I just want to say thank y'all for voting no.
My biggest thing to the public, and I've got some things to thank for before we're done. The eco digester
same nefarious actors.
Please do not compare at the moment, I'm not telling Vanguard, but don't throw sludge mud at Vanguard until Vanguard can give us some stuff of what the process is. We talked about process, I'm gonna get Vanguard in a second. But this is not about sludge, we cannot stop sludge. This board's not meeting on sludge tonight, we had met on sludge last meeting, I was here about Vanguard, it's not sludge. It's a pet peeve of mine. Please, we want your input, because y'all are our neighbors, and we are up here to vote, take not only you, but us too. We're not meeting on sludge. Now, Vanguard,
So we can drop it, what is it?
you're the professionals here. We're just a bunch of old country hicks, go to church. Tonight. Gentleman next to you asked you some questions, you need to be prepared to answer. I'm not being open. He's a retired engineer, he has some simple questions, we didn't get no response. That is one reason everybody here has got a bunch of reserve. I like the general idea, and I actually talked to a dear friend of mine who had the eco digester within a quarter mile of his house. Don't bother him a bit, he likes his technology there. But if you're gonna come here, Josh.
Yeah.
Step up, please. So, on Josh right here. You need to go knock on some doors. You need to make some friends, and that's your first one right there. Mr. Bill Beck, stand up, please. That's your next. Bill has had direct involvement with the person who's wanting the eco digest on his property. You add those two, you come back to us with a plan that explains us in detail what you're gonna put in this thing, what limits the amount of trucks coming in and out, or what your capacity is, so we don't get overrun with concern. I think the technology grade is heading that direction, but I think you're premature, either you're not spilling your guts to us to what we asked of others. Come up with a detailed plan that you can convince us, or convince this person. I would like to see you come back. I would like to see the technology. I would like Wilkes County to have some size pine trees, chicken houses as well back. About what we got. I don't wanna turn down any new technology. I don't. There's some new things coming. We don't have a great workforce, we need some tax base. But we want to protect it. We like our small town life. And I don't, John's live on that. They chose to live on that. Make friends. Get your plan together. Get your pacifier, the one I just named out. I read out a list for you. But to me, you're very unprepared to answer questions. You come with your line at the end of the night. So, I like the technology, I like the idea, but until you can show we're protected, we're not gonna have a chemical spill, or we give a permit, you got that bill 3 times, light rock, that kind of stuff, you know, we're scared. But the ball's in your court tonight, we're gonna have a vote, you kinda already know where it's headed. But there's a bunch more plans, there's some stuff going on around us, we've already got some on it, we get some other stuff, but I have to make sure about that about a month ago. There's things changing in the country, we have trash, it has to go somewhere, but we don't even put our trash on our land. So, we're shipping our trash to somebody else, so, like Kyle said, all these tickets, we gotta hold some blame too for what we're doing to the environment. And I would love to see it turned into something good. The big companies like Vanguard can do that. There's some steps y'all gotta get in place before you can, before you do it here. But people, please, we don't want sludge. I don't know what Vanguard's gonna put in their tank. My understanding it's not sludge, so let's keep the sludge separated from this.
I guess we're ready to vote. All in favor, say yes.
My motion for a vote, second.
All in favor? All opposed? Any other comments? We stand adjourned.
about sludge, not the county commissioner's office, because they approve it, we cannot do nothing about